everyone. Happy 2022. Welcome to the first episode of Spiritual Spiral of 2022. I'm your host, Sam Davidson, and I'm so excited because we have an amazing first guest of the year. So we have Elisa Barnett. She is an Akashic record reader, and she's an internationally recognized best-selling author of 2 Akashic record books. She's also the founder of Akashic Knowing School, where she teaches students from around the world to access their personal soul wisdom and guidance to transform their lives. We love Akashic Records here on this show. So thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you, Sam. I'm very flattered to be the first show of the year. That's exciting. Thank you.
It is exciting. Off to a good, positive start. And, I have listened to some of the other podcasts you've been on. I know a little bit about how you came into this work, but if you could tell our audience how you found the Akashic Records and if spirituality was always something that was, you were passionate about, or this just happened very quickly.
Yes, well, it has been a lifelong journey for me. My story goes all the way back to when I was about 3 years old. And I kind of had this crazy epiphany. It was like looking at my hands and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm trapped in a body. Again. And I was not excited. I'm 3 years old and I'm telling my mother, I want to go back. Right? Poor mom, right? What could you say? Honey, I don't think I can send you back.
Yeah, I can't get you back in there. Sorry.
That really was kind of my trigger in knowing that I was more in remembering than I was more than just that little baby body. Mm-hmm. I could remember being on the etheric plane and conversing with 2 other souls. So I literally started studying about as soon as I could really read and understand kind of adult books. So that was, for me, 13, 14 years old. I was lucky to be living in California back in the late 60s, early 70s. Lots of spiritual information just starting to come really to the West. Mm-hmm. The Maharishi was bringing transcendental meditation to the West, and people were starting to write some interesting books. And so I studied everything I could, and it has been really that lifelong passion.
Wow. And so, one of the things I wrote down is a lot of podcasts I've listened to, books I've read, in spiritual Facebook groups and stuff. I'm in one where a woman posted the other day, my son keeps on telling me he wants to go home. And she said he's 3 years old. And it's this common theme of these younger kids saying, I want to go home. I don't want to be here. Now, is that kind of I don't want to say a mistake, but is that a glitch in the system that the kids remember and it confuses them? Why does that happen?
What I believe is happening is that more and more truly awake souls are coming to help us. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like one thing when you're in this etheric being and you're this ancient wise soul and you're like, sure, I'm going to go help. And then we get here and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm a baby. Right?
Yeah.
And what was I thinking? It's dense here, Yeah. So I really think it's almost that kind of I forgot what it was like here, and now I don't really want to do this. And so I think it's relatively common. I've bumped into a couple. I have identical twin girls. One of them had that much more than the other, which I thought was interesting. I've had friends who had babies who were really, really connected to me because they had that kind of oh, I get you. You've been through this, and I can kind of energetically speak to them yeah, it's okay. It's okay. You just have to be patient until you grow up. But, for me in that way, I realized I never particularly enjoyed being a child. Because I was kind of waiting to grow up so I could get on with it. Right?
Me too. Yeah. And I forget who it was that we had on at some point over the past year and a half, but it was about birth and life and, babies cry because they're like, what the heck is going on here? And I always think of that movie, Look Who's Talking, where, the babies come out and they're like, what the heck? Take me back. But with me personally, I had some birth trauma. I came out the wrong way. I was literally like, they were like, well, it's definitely a girl, but we need to do emergency surgery, get her out, and so I had some, issues when I was younger, like from that birth trauma. And I always was so upset that that happened to me. And I couldn't understand why it happened because I had to have a couple surgeries when I was younger, to like, it was like mostly the shape of my head. And, it's all fixed now. But I always felt as though as a kid, I didn't like extracurriculars. I didn't like to have to do all of the stuff that kids do. I didn't enjoy it. Theater really was the only thing that resonated with me, but I just definitely didn't feel like one of the other kids. And now looking back at it retrospectively, it all kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of feel the same way. It's like, we struggle because what the record keepers have said to me over these many years of chatting with them, a long time ago, they said, most people live, we actually get um, kind of trapped in this whole karmic pattern, this matrix of the earth. And most of us live somewhere between 600 and 800 lives to literally work through everything that we've come to learn about, because we really come here because we do want to learn and grow. And it is a fabulous soul school. But I mean, really, 800 lives?
Yeah.
That was appalling. And then pretty recently, it was kind of funny. I don't know why it came up all of a sudden, but they said, oh, yeah, you've been here more than 1,000 times. And I'm like, no wonder I'm always annoyed. But they say, many of us come kind of again and again and again to be of assistance in different ways. And for a long time, really these last, especially couple thousand years, especially since, the dark ages, we've come to help, but there hasn't been enough light energy on the planet to do what we wanted to do, what we were trying to do. And again, they talk often about kind of the bigger picture thing of the planetary energies, moving. We're finally now moving in 2022 into a new age, right? The age of Aquarius, a new yuga, which is a 26,000 year cycle. But the first part of that new 26,000 year cycle, I believe, will be part of moving into the golden age, a new golden age, which we haven't experienced here on Earth for 26,000 or so years.
Wow.
But that's why we're here. That's why we're coming. That's why so many of these awake children are showing up. They're coming to make sure that we can do what we need to do, what we can invent, what needs to be invented, that we can make a kind of the changes so that we can build a new earth, that we can create plenty of, food and water and everything for everyone to be able to create a beautiful life here on Earth, which is really where we're going. And so, yay, that's exciting.
Yay, I hope so. For those that don't know or aren't as familiar, how can you summarize what the Akashic Records are and who these Akashic record keepers are? Or is that their only job? Are they also, spirit guides? Like, who are they?
Right. Great question. So the Akashic Record is the recording of your soul's journey through all time. So from the moment your soul individuates from source forever ago, everything you've ever been or done in other places, planes, and dimensions, as well as here on Earth, is energetically recorded. I always say it's just like if you had a GoPro, a video camera strapped to your head, and you recorded everything you ever did, and it got uploaded to the cloud at the end of every day. You could go back. What was I doing when I was 2? What was I doing two lifetimes ago? What was I doing, 2,000 years ago? So that recording is what your Akashic record is. So just that amazing library of only you. We all have our very own personal library. And the record keepers are really our personal librarians. So they are not other guides. They are not ascended masters. They're no one who has been in your family who's crossed over. They're not our healing masters, any other kind of guide. They're very pure source energy. They've never been human. They actually haven't taken their own journey yet.
Mm.
They have volunteered to be of service to other souls to keep their Akashic Library. So they're beautiful, pure, energetic, divine souls, and they're really here just to support us. And so your record keepers are just for you. Mine are just for me, right? We have our own actual group of record keepers.
And so how do you personally access them when you're, giving readings to your clients? And I also know you said in a podcast episode you did that, meditation, like you're a 10-minute kind of in and out kind of person, which I am too, because another Akashic record reader we had on, she meditates for a long time and channels and connects that way. So how do you do it?
I have been given what the record keepers have referred to as a 5-step wisdom prayer system. And really what that entails is a vibrational key in the form of a sacred prayer that literally immediately moves you into the Akashic field. And so this is kind of funny. I just learned this weekend. So I had gotten this weird little band, and it's got it reads your vibration in your head, your brain waves.
Wow.
Okay. So I wanted to use it because it's a meditation device to help you know kind of where you are, calm or neutral or stressed, And so I was playing with it this weekend. It's got an app on your phone. It's called Focus Calm. Wow. And I was playing with it this weekend. And so I was just, kind of sitting in bed on Sunday morning, and I had my computer out, but I put it on. I turned on Focus Calm. It shows the number that your brain wave is reading at. And mine was hanging out around 50 or whatever, kind of neutral. And then I'd look at it and it would drop. So the minute I kind of look at the number, I'd get stressed out, and then it would go down even further, right? Then it was down to 30 or whatever. So I'm like, I'm just going to open my records. I'm just going to connect to the Akash. I closed my eyes. I just said, Akashic Masters, please connect me to my Akashic field. Bring me deeply into the Akashic energy. Connect me up. And I just kind of sat there for a minute and hung out, and I was just like, oh, la, la, la. And then my husband on his computer sitting next to me in bed turned on a video, which was a car race. It was like, and I was like, wow. And so I went back and I looked at the phone, and it had been kind of yellow. And the minute I started to access the record, it just went blue, calm, until he hit that video and it went bang, right back down to yellow, right? And so I thought, oh, that is so cool, because this is actual scientific proof of how our brain waves can change, move into this energy that, this company is calling calm, and really kind of a meditative state. But the Akashic record access prayer that the record keepers have given me, immediately, like bang, it went in one sentence. Now, you have to know I've been doing this for over 25 years. So I'm not going to say that happens totally for every single person the minute they read the first sentence. But that's what the access prayer does for us. It literally shifts us right into the vibration of source energy, the quantum field where our Akashic records are stored. And so, of course, very fun to kind of prove that now with a, kind of a scientific machine.
Yeah, that is really cool.
So it's a practice. I teach people the 5-step wisdom prayer system over a 6-session workshop, which I sometimes do over 6 weeks. Sometimes I do twice a week over 3 weeks. Sometimes I do a weekend workshop, whatever. So I teach you the access prayers. We practice, we learn to start to communicate with our record keepers, developing our clairaudience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, a lot of that clear knowingness,
Mhm.
very powerful information. So it's a simple process. And
Mhm.
of course, like any, profound tool, it takes some practice.
And so when you said you were in that space of calm and relax in your Akashic record room or whatever you want to call it, do you actually see anything? Like, are you, seeing stuff like in your mind's eye? Are there colors or is it just like a state of mind?
So, it really kind of depends, sometimes on what I'm doing with it.
Hmm.
So, if I just open my records and don't have any particular questions or conversations, it's more like being in the energy of the void. It's just expanse and space and calm and like, just imagine floating around in source energy with nothing to do. It's quite lovely. But of course, it's also a very powerful tool to get information for yourself. And so, say when I do a reading for a client and I open their records, I'm then conversing with their Akashic record keepers, their librarians. And so,
Hmm.
we're asking questions. I'll often see an image, um, kind of hear words, get that claircognizant, just knowingness. I know the story. A lot of that'll come through kind of in a feeling sense. So there's a lot more energy and information coming through when you start to ask questions. And
Hmm.
that's literally what I teach my students to do, is to use this in both ways, as a way to be in a calm meditative state if you choose, and to get information about your soul's plan. Because before you were born, right, before you embody, each time you write a whole plan and say, I want to support these people. I want to bring these gifts and talents back to humanity. I want to learn these lessons. I want to work on this project, right? So we have this big plan when we come here. And most of us, I think, feel like, I don't know my purpose. Am I doing the right things? And that really is what your soul plan is about.
And so I know a lot about, the work with the Akashic records is to kind of clear out past life, karma and bad things that have happened and to help you learn these lessons that, you're supposed to know and, to kind of make better what's holding you back. But if everything was cleared out and everything was made perfect, then life really wouldn't have a purpose, that we're supposed to go through trauma because we're supposed to learn that specific lesson. A question I have is, with someone that has experienced a pretty good deal of trauma, in their life, how do they accept and get used to and not be afraid of something good happening to them? Because I mean, I've had a very nice life, and there's probably plenty of other people in the world. I know there is, of course. I have a lot more trauma than I have, but I have always kind of struggled like with happiness and with feeling content, and just the way I was raised. And I also have these fear stories that anytime something good happens, it's like, oh no, when am I going to fall down? Everything that comes up must fall down. And recently, I just got into a new relationship, and it's amazing and lovely and something I've been waiting for my entire life. But I have this little thing in the back of my head, and it's probably the fear, but also from this knowledge that I have through my work on this show. Uh-oh, what's going to happen? Is some big lesson going to happen? Like, how can I just accept the happiness?
Mm. Wow, that is a great, great question. So I think there's a variety of levels and layers of information in there. And one of the things that I love to do through my Akashic record readings for my clients is to do the healing that is really available to us in this quantum field that we're in. And so we can go into past lives where there are still emotional pain, trauma, triggers, and actually heal and clear that out of the lives so we can kind of clear it out of this lifetime, wherever those connections are from one life to another, those karmic patterns. We can work on healing that and actually clearing it out of the subconscious, because a lot of our trauma gets buried in our subconscious. And so when we start to do this sort of healing work through the quantum field, through the Akashic field, we can literally go and ask our record keepers to help us release these unconscious patterns, these buried subconscious patterns. And there's also lots of energetic programs that keep us running sometimes in that fear. That can be a program, which is almost like some kind of metal cage around you that keeps you, every time you bump into it, you're like, uh-oh, 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 right? And so even though I'm going along happily, every time I bump into that energetic cage, it's like, oh, but I better be careful. I better watch out. I better stay on my toes. And the interesting thing with these programs are that they really are kind of created to make us keep us safe in a lot of ways. And so again, we can go in and start to dismantle these energetic programs, which take away that kind of, uh-oh, something bad's going to happen sort of program. And then I really believe that there's a lot of different ways to start to rewire our brain. That's one of the reasons I'm kind of playing with some of these kind of different tools, because they're really great to start to see what your brain's doing and how we can rewire it. There's these different sorts of ways, but I think that one of the great things is that we're becoming so much more conscious about all of these different aspects, about the kind of trigger consciousness of feeling fear, getting that triggered every time. And I really believe that we have lots of tools. This is one of the reasons I have all my little 10-minute guided visualizations that I like to share, because so many of these tools can help us move people out of our space, clear a lot of these different triggers and buttons that set us off, help us start to rewire our brain to realize, oh, as we clear these patterns, oh, it's just an old pattern. That's not the truth, right? And then we start to reset our intentions. I'm living a life of love, right? And so instead of living a life of fear or worry or concern, right? So I think there's lots of aspects that are important for us to work with to transform our mindset, because, we have lived kind of in survival mode for most of humanity, I'm going to say.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, with me, I've always gone to mediums and have been very conscious of all of this stuff. And I know something that you've spoke on before is having an organic life and not letting like all of these kind of tools and influences like really get in the way, because, I love getting readings, and, my father has passed away. So it's something that I really enjoy in order to communicate with him. Is there something that it could be too much, that, you're getting too in your head and planning out your life? And especially these past 2 years, it's been a lot of solitude and thinking and, seeing the bigger picture. But then like, could people get in their own ways because they're like, well, what if this and what if this and this guy, and it just kind of like it gets overwhelming.
Right, absolutely. I agree. I think that when we're always going for someone else's advice, then we're not really living in our soul's plan, alignment to our soul, and starting to connect. So again, one of the reasons the record keepers asked me to teach others to read their own records is because they said, this empowerment tool is your birthright. Everyone should have their own soul guidance. You should be able to go in every day if you want and answer every day. Go into your own soul's library and go, trust yourself, because other people can be wrong, right? They're all human. We're all just channeling. We do the best we can, but that doesn't mean the information's always spot on. And so, to me, it's about coming to trust yourself more and more and more. And so
Absolutely.
stepping in and learning tools that you can use for yourself so you're not always giving your power away. So I have friends who do readings for me. There are times where something is just a little too close. I'm like, I need a second opinion,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, absolutely. I get that too. But when we have these gifts and tools ourselves, then we can start to really count on ourselves and not always on others.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think this is especially the point again in history where there's more light on the earth than ever before. There's more, it's easier um, to access the Akashic records than really ever before.
Hmm.
And so, I'm really looking forward to having more and more people wake up and step into their own power so you can live a soul guided life and ask those questions every day.
What are your thoughts on dreams and dreaming? Do you think that we are ever accessing our Akashic records by accident some way when we dream?
Yeah, yeah. I think that sometimes we do. I think that we have so many kind of levels of dream, right? You've got the one level where your brain really is just kind of working out the garbage of the day.
Hmm.
We have that very profound astral level where we're really meeting our other friends, family members on the astral plane and sharing time with them on the astral plane. And I think that there are absolutely times where we can access our own Akashic records and get that kind of information. I've had quite a few clients, students share that they've had kind of these interesting dreams where it looks even like a library and they have a guide there who wants to give them some information. Sometimes they're opening a book or reading this big book of their lives. And so absolutely, I think that we do that. The clearer our energy field is, the more we can raise our vibration by doing our own healing work and stepping into higher vibration, information, just really kind of living in that sort of way of living in much more peace and unconditional love, forgiveness, gratitude. All of that raises our vibration. It doesn't have to be really complicated.
Hmm.
um, but absolutely, when we can start to do that, I think we start to get those soul downloads. Sometimes it's our higher self, sometimes we're accessing the records through a dream state. So it can be really, really lovely that way.
Yeah. And so obviously everyone has their own Akashic records, every single person. And I know that in spirituality, most people say there is no bad, or, it's just there, it just is. But for like maybe a deeply troubled individual that has done really bad things in this lifetime, like what would their Akashic records look like? And is their keeper like, get this guy out of here? Like, this like I can't take that, I can't take him anymore.
you know, Basically, what I see is that we're often, I'm kind of seeing more the flip side. I'm seeing the person who has created a lot of kind of negative karmic patterns for themselves that they want to learn from. And so in this lifetime, they're having a kind of traumatic um, life because they may have abusive relationships because they've been an abuser in many different lifetimes, or maybe it's around their physical or their health challenges because they haven't cared for themselves physically in other lives. So we come to kind of learn both sides of all stories, and it's more than just two sides. There's so many facets to any kind of big issue.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll say, um, I will be born to this person who maybe say has drug or alcohol addiction or some sort of addictions. And we come in to be the child because we want to show them and give them the love that the plan in your records is, your plan
Hmm.
is to love them enough so that they can wake up and let go of some of those addictions and be filled with the love,
Hmm.
right? So if that makes sense. And we're all human. So it doesn't often play out that way, or often it does not play out that way. Even though we could be the love, that person may not be able to end their addictive patterns anyway.
Hmm.
But it's part of it. So it can be a soul contract. I'll be the addict. I'll be, the other person will be the love. Um, they're both choosing that because they both have learning and soul growth that they want to experience. And so even if you are being the love and your parent doesn't give up the addiction, you've still learned about that aspect of life. You've grown as a soul. Often we move forward into a deeper amount of compassion and forgiveness and growth. And then we may end up sharing it in another way. Maybe we become a therapist, or we share with some other kinds of friends who had similar childhood where they had maybe an addictive parent and the child felt, very unloved. So it's never for naught, right?
Hmm.
Even if it doesn't work out the way maybe our soul had planned in the beginning, it doesn't mean you didn't learn and grow. And the other person who maybe didn't make the change, say your parent who wasn't able to break through addiction, they'll end up working through it in another lifetime. This is why most of us have 600 or 800 lives, because it takes us a while to figure it all out.
In the Akashic Records, I've actually never thought about this before. Are any of the past lives that you can access not human or on another planet?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I find is that sometimes when I open someone's records, I get almost more that galactic, expansive energy. Sometimes they're kind of big angelic presence. Sometimes they'll come through as from another planet or dimension where maybe they have a plan, or they wanted to work on something in this life here,
Hmm.
bring some of that information through. So there is definitely some of that information. I don't know that I get quite as much detail about those lives, because mostly they're, kind of thousands and thousands of years ago in this dimension. But we do get information about it, and sometimes kind of that bigger purpose, or that a bigger energy around it, that life purpose that way.
Yeah, because what everyone says is there's a big waiting list for Earth and it's very desired. So I've always found that really interesting.
Well, right. And then, I was talking to someone just the other day who was a walk-in. What a walk-in is when a one soul leaves the body doesn't die, and another soul comes in.
Oh, I've seen that in TV shows and things like that, but
Yeah.
no, but I want to know more about that in real life. Yeah. Okay, that's
Yeah.
the thing.
Not, yeah, it is. It actually is a thing. It's not that common, but certainly in kind of the bigger spiritual circles and over the years. So there was a book, boy, back in the probably late 60s, maybe it was the early 70s, one of the earlier books that I read as a teenager, about a Rinpoche who walked into a plumber's body. So the plumber died, but they make it's a soul contract with the other soul that you can have my body, I'm leaving. And so it's kind of interesting. Sometimes it happens through an accident or an illness where the soul will leave, but the body will get healed with the other soul coming in. So instead of having to go back all the way to being an infant and start from scratch, sometimes people do it in that kind of way where a soul will walk into a grown up adult body.
How do they adjust, and are they just confused, or does the soul know like what happened?
The people that I have talked to who have had that experience, the soul that comes in is pretty conscious. It sometimes takes a while because they may have gone through some kind of trauma to get in.
Hmm.
Um, but the new soul tends to be pretty conscious that they chose to come in, and that they're a walk-in is what they call them.
Wow. And it's just
Yeah.
because the original soul, they just said, I know I'm going to peace out at this point in my life. And you coming in and exchanging, there's like a bigger purpose for it for some reason or another.
Yeah, I've done a couple of readings for walk-ins. And what I found is a lot of times, it varies. The story kind of varies, but on some level, these two souls make a contract that say, I'm leaving and you can have my body, you know?
It's like maybe like when you're on the wait list for college and you don't get in the first time, and then the second time I don't know, you get in last minute, whatever. It's just,
Right. Someone else decides not to go in and you get their space, right?
yeah.
You're like, okay, great. But so it's another oddity, but there are more. What I've seen is that the souls that have come in as the walk-in are very awake and often really have some purpose, that they want to come in and finish. Didn't want to
Yeah.
start from scratch.
From what you know, I mean, what do those people's relationships in this life look like after the original soul moves on?
Well, I'm going to say generally they kind of lose relationship with, like, say, the original family,
Mhm.
because the original family does not get them, because this
Yeah.
is a very different kind of soul, very, very often a very kind of awake, often with a big mission.
Yeah.
It seems like it's not uncommon that they just kind of go their own separate ways. And I've also been told that that person wasn't close to their family anyway, so when the new soul came in, they just weren't even around anyway. It wasn't like a big deal. So kind of interesting that way.
Yeah. And as far as, this podcast was started when lockdown first happened and everyone was so confused and this and that. Obviously, we all signed up to be here during this specific time during this pandemic. But in your opinion, from what you've seen from the records and the record keepers and all of that, like what really is the purpose of everything that's happened in the past 2 years and everything that's still happening?
No, it's a good question. So, the record keeper for many, many years would say things to me like, we're going to go back into smaller communities. We're going to kind of live, work, eat, right? It's actually much healthier for us to kind of eat local foods that are more locally grown, not just restaurants, but really, kind of the farm to table idea where people are growing food and creating restaurants where they're growing their own food and things like that, but really becoming again more local. And I used to think, that's such a nice idea. I wonder how they're going to do that. How is this going to happen? And so when COVID hit and things started to get locked down, the record keeper said to me, this is one of the ways that we're starting, right, to kind of bring people back into community. And so people stopped commuting so far, stopped traveling all the time, traveling for work all over the world, always on the road, 5 days a week, all of these kinds of things pretty much ended. Now, I know of course, it's been a challenge in so many ways because so many people have been more alone, and that's been its own really big challenge. But they're saying, it gave the earth itself a breather in many ways. Nature got to come back a little bit because there wasn't so many cars and so much pollution and everybody running around. Families actually seem to have come back together in a stronger sort of way from what I've seen, all over. And so many of us are really working from home and maybe never going back, because who wants to commute 2 to 3 hours a day to get into a city somewhere, to take a train, to spend all that time in a car, whatever that is. So it's much more about starting to create our own life more locally, and to take care of each other and to know our neighbors and the people in our community. So that's
Yeah.
what the record keepers said, kind of in that bigger way around, like, wow, this is crazy that we're all locked down.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, we also see a lot of the positive aspects of what has happened with that. So it'll be interesting to see as we continue to go forward, because part of what it is rethinking what we do and starting to create our version of a new earth.
Yeah. I mean, I was a red carpet reporter, always Hollywood celebrity, and I
Mhm.
still love all of that stuff, but it's taken a back seat. And over the past, year and a half, I've really realized like, I really want to help people. I've always wanted to help my neighbors, a stranger. Do you know what I mean? I've always been that person to like help a stranger that's fallen and that kind of thing. But it never really occurred to me that in that way it could be also part of my work and really my day to day life. And there's a podcast that I'm producing now, and it has like celebrities will be coming on the podcast, but it's about mental health,
Mhm.
and how they can heal and how they have healed in their own journeys, and how the perception of them is quite different than what everyone thought. And it just really clicked. I was like, I'd much rather have those conversations with celebrities about mental health and helping people, as opposed to their movie, or how big their house is, or their girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. So I mean, yeah, I kind of am seeing that as well, that that is possible to do that, and that is what I want to do. Like when I was 13 and I had my bat mitzvah, and the only reason I remember this is because I watched my bat mitzvah video recently, and my dad gave a speech and he says, "You're going to be a healer." And I was like, what? Like, that's such a random thing for him to have said to
Really?
me and to the whole congregation. But now, and healer can mean so many different things in different ways. So yeah, that's really cool.
I love it. Yes,
Yeah.
and it really has. It's given, so, it's given us time, and I really have noticed that a lot of people are using that time to meditate more, to find ways to be in nature, to go for a walk, to do some yoga. More and more and more people are really waking up spiritually, really because we've had more time and space to do that. And I think so many of us have turned inward to look for more answers. And that really connects us up in that sort of way to our higher self, to our soul guidance and wisdom. And so I really see that this is kind of a amazing and great way, even
Yeah.
with all the trauma and pain and all of the challenges. But in the end, it really has facilitated, I think, so many more people waking up, changing jobs, realizing that they don't want to spend the rest of their life doing something that they really didn't like that much, that they
Mhm.
can create something new, like just like yourself. You're one example of, I'm sure, millions of people around the world. And so it's exciting because this is the beginning of us creating the new earth, our version of, what our soul desires, our heart desires. So,
Yeah.
yeah, very exciting.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so, so much for your time and your gifts and your love. Please share with us where everyone can find you and anything that you have going on right now.
I would love to. So, my website is akashicknowing.com. And I have I teach online workshops to learn to access your own Akashic records. And the next one starts February 8th. And then there will be one in June, and again another one in September. So check out my website at akashicknowing.com if you're interested in learning to access your own soul guidance through the Akashic record. I also have home study programs. My 2 books are on the website. If you're interested in doing a Akashic consultation and healing session with me, again, website. There's a free gift there on my website. There is a great quiz about healing trauma if you're curious to see kind of where you're standing in those ways. And so, yeah, hopefully you'll check it out and we will get to connect.
Awesome. And thank you all so much for listening. Make sure to follow us at Spiritual Spiral Show on Instagram. Rate, review, subscribe. We always love hearing your feedback, and we will see you soon. Bye, everyone.